In the name of God, who creates us, redeems us, and sanctifies us. Amen. Please be seated. Can I get a show of hands? How many folks think the big toe is important? Big toe? Okay, I see a lot of hands, and that's good. If Deion Sanders was here this morning and was asked that question, his hand would shoot right up in an instant. Deion Sanders is a Hall of Fame football player who, I'm happy to let you know, graduated from the Florida State University, and he led a Hall of Fame career as a cornerback. Some football experts would say he's the best cornerback to ever play the game. 6'1", in his prime, 225 pounds of lean, mean football machine, less than 5% body fat, could run the 40-yard dash in 4.27 seconds. Olympic sprinter speed. This phenomenal athlete, truly an Adonis, had his career cut short because of his big toe. He developed a condition that was a severe sprain of that big toe, and that condition is very common among athletes, and in particular among football players. So common that the name of the condition is turf toe. Imagine, turf toe. And this incredible athlete had his career cut short because he suffered that, his big toe. St. Paul gives us this beautiful image of the church as the body of Christ. And as he writes to the Corinthians in our reading this morning, each and every member is important. Each and every member is significant to the well-being of the body. The foot, the hand, the ear, and the eye, all different parts, all with different abilities and gifts. Nevertheless, all important to the well-being of the church, to the body of Christ. This beautiful image that St. Paul gives us reminds us that when one part of the body of Christ suffers, we all suffer. And the opposite side of that is that when we are all giving of our gifts and talents, when we are all putting our abilities, as unique as they are, even with all of our weaknesses and limitations, when we place those at the service of Christ as members of the body of Christ, the church, we bear witness to the world of the presence of Jesus. We are the body of Christ to the world around us. There's a story told of a woman who each and every day would take 2 buckets and walk from her home, and she'd walk down her driveway, which was steep and sloped, and she'd walk about a half mile to the well in the middle of town. And each and every day, she carried those 2 buckets. One bucket had been with her a long time, and that old faithful bucket had grown rusty and squeaky and leaky and filled with holes. And the other bucket was almost new, pristine and watertight. One in one hand, one in the other, she'd make her daily pilgrimage down to the town's well. And each and every day, faithfully fill up both of those buckets with fresh water. And begin the half-mile trek back home. That new, pristine, watertight bucket never lost a drop. The old, rusty, squeaky, leaky bucket filled with holes. Sure enough, as she began her walk back home, leaking water all over the place. Until by the time she reached the door of home, that new, pristine, watertight bucket hadn't lost a drop. And the rusty, old, leaky, squeaky bucket filled with holes had lost every bit of water. One day, finally, the old, faithful, rusty, squeaky, leaky bucket filled with holes felt discouraged. And she said to her old friend, "Why do you keep me around? I'm rusty, I'm leaky, I'm squeaky, I'm filled with holes, and each and every morning you fill me up with water. But by the time we get to the door of our house, all of the water you've put in me is gone out." And with great love for her faithful friend, the rusty, squeaky, leaky bucket filled with holes, with great love, the woman turns to her and says, "Look." And she turns her back so that she can see the path from the well to the door of the home. And that path is filled with flowers of every color. It's a blooming, blossoming garden of life, that path from the well to her door. She says, "My friend, you are exactly what I hoped you would be." You see, because you leak, because you're squeaky and leaky and have holes all over, you spread this water over the soil, and that water nourishes that soil. And because of you, that soil gives life and blooms wonderfully. My sisters and brothers, when we place not only our gifts and our talents, but yes, even our limitations and what we consider to be our weaknesses, when we place them in the hands of God and are faithful to that, God makes of us what God hopes for us. Maybe today you feel like the new, pristine, watertight bucket, and that's great. Maybe today you feel more like the rusty, squeaky, leaky bucket filled with holes, and that's great. Because when we place our gifts and our talents, when we place our weaknesses and limitations in the hand of Christ, Christ makes of us his blessed and beloved body on earth a teeming, flowering garden of life.